swords, spears, and bows, and arrows. These are all weapons that are pretty familiar to us today, but compared to some ancient weapons that we will explore in this video, they are tame to say the least. From explosive arrows to flaming chariots. Here are 20 of the strangest ancient weapons you've never heard of. Chakram the chakra is one of the most recognizable ancient weapons from India, thanks to its appearance in countless Bollywood films. It is a razor-sharp throwing disc that was worn on the arm and could be hurled with deadly accuracy toward an opponent. In the right hands, it was a fearsome weapon capable of slicing through flesh and bone. Greek fire. What was Greek fire? This was a mysterious concoction used by the Byzantine army between the 7th and 12th centuries. It was usually applied to naval warfare and was described as an incendiary liquid that could be shot toward enemy ships. It was likely used to defend Constantinople from Arab invaders. But what exactly was it? Some scholars believe it was a mixture of naphtha or petroleum mixed with sulfur, while others believe it was a chemical weapon involving toxins. Kapinga. The kapinga is a deadly throwing knife associated with the Azande tribe from Africa. It is unique because it has multiple blades that can be thrown with lethal force. The number of blades varies, but usually there are 5, and these are arranged in a cross formation. When thrown correctly, the blades expanded on their way through the air, making it nearly impossible for the victim to dodge them. Man-catcher. The man-catcher might sound like a torture device straight out of the Middle Ages, but it was actually a clever pole weapon used throughout Europe. As the name suggests, it was used to catch people rather than to kill them. During battles, soldiers would use the man-catcher to pull opponents off their horses or to snag them up in trees. Makua. If you want to learn about terrifying weapons, then you can't go past the Aztec Empire. The Makua weedle was a wooden sword that was sharpened on one end and embedded with obsidian shards. So not only could the user slice through an opponent, but he could also inflict devastating cuts that would bleed profusely. Warriors would often coat their makuito with human blood, believing this made the weapon even more powerful. Fire lance. The fire lance is exactly what it sounds like, a spear that shoots fire. It first appeared in China and was used in many different shapes and sizes. Most versions were similar to regular spears, except that they had a small container attached to the bottom, which was filled with a burning substance that would shoot out of a nozzle at the front. In effect, the users could throw fire. It is considered to be an early form of the flame. Bognak. The bognak is a bizarre claw-like weapon that was worn in the hand. It looks a bit like brass knuckles, except instead of being padded, it has long sharp claws that could inflict deep wounds. It was mostly used in India, although similar weapons were developed in other parts of the world. It was used for stealth missions, because the weapon was silent, and the deep gashes it inflicted meant that victims bled profusely and quickly. Urami. There are many strange weapons from India, but few are as intimidating as the Urami. This was a whip sword that measured around 10 feet in length and consisted of a flexible metal chain. Due to its length, it was extremely hard to master, but in the right hands, it was a very effective weapon. The Urami first appeared in South India around the 12th century. Wacha. Have you ever wanted to fire more arrows than you could physically handle? Then you need the wacha. This was a Korean invention that first appeared during the Three Kingdoms period. Basically, it was a cart that had a tube at the front and could launch over 100 arrows at once. The rockets would burst in the air and cover the ground below, with arrows that would fly through the air in all directions. It is believed that the wacha played a major role in winning many battles. Nest of bees. The nest of bees is a fascinating weapon that comes from China. It was used during the Ming Dynasty and was basically a multiple rocket launcher. Rockets were loaded into the tubes and then ignited. The rockets shot out of the front and were said to have traveled over 1,000 feet. It is thought that the nest of bees may have been inspired by real wasps' nests. Roman scorpion. Imagine a crossbow the size of a house. That's exactly what you get with the Roman scorpion. It was a huge siege weapon used by the Romans. It was designed to hurl bolts at castles and city walls. Its large size meant that it had great tension, and it could shoot bolts for hundreds of yards. It operated similarly to a crossbow, except it was so big that it took dozens of men to operate it. Atlatl. It seems that every ancient civilization had its own special version of a spear gun. The atlatl is an example from the prehistoric Americas. It looked like a regular spear, but the tip was angled and connected to a hook-like device. This allowed the user to store potential energy in the atlatl before hurling the spear forward with incredible speed and force. The extra oomph helped hunters take down large game. Gunpowder. Arrows. When you think of gunpowder, you probably imagine a full-blown cannon or musket. But did you know that you can miniaturize it and turn it into an arrow? During the Ming Dynasty in China, small amounts of gunpowder were placed inside arrows. The head of the arrow would explode and leave a fiery trail behind. It's not known how widespread the use of gunpowder arrows were, but it is believed they were used in several battles. Jua. The jua was a weird weapon that dates back thousands of years. It was used by nomadic tribes in China and consisted of a metal claw that was attached to a pole. The weapon was used for pulling riders off their horses during battle. To make the jua even more effective, warriors would often smear a poisonous substance on the claw. Flaming chariots. Chariots weren't just used for transporting people in ancient times, they were also used in battle. The Persians took chariot warfare to a new level when they began modifying them to include fire traps and blades. The idea was to drive the chariots up to enemy formations and release the deadly traps. This caused mass casualties and was one of the most terrifying sights imaginable. Double-ended sword. Swords are usually single-edged, but not the double-ended sword from Tibet. As the name suggests, it has a blade at both ends, which means the warrior can attack with either side. This made it perfect for the spinning style of Tibetan sword fighting. The double-ended sword was also light and compact, which made it easy to wield. Catapult, crossbow, hybrid. The catapult crossbow was an experiment from ancient Greece. Instead of using tension to launch projectiles, it used both tension and torque. This enabled it to fire faster and more accurately. Unfortunately, the catapult crossbow was very complicated and didn't last long. Shotel. The shotel is a unique sword from Ethiopia that has a curved blade and a long handle. It was designed to cut through shields and armor, making it the perfect companion for cavalry troops. The design of the shotel has remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. Sadi. When the Japanese went to work, they brought along their hooked poles. The sadagrami had a sharp hook at the end and was used primarily to disarm criminals. It was especially useful against swords and spears, but it could also be used as a hook to trip people up and throw them to the ground. Boomerang. The boomerang is an Australian invention that dates back over 20,000 years. It is widely believed that boomerangs were originally used for hunting animals, and only later were used for sport. There are three main types of boomerangs. The first is the returning boomerang, which flies through the air and then returns to the thrower. The second is the non-returning boomerang, which flies through the air and does not return. It is usually used for hunting animals. And the third type is the throwing club, which is a solid piece of wood that is used for knocking out opponents. Now it's time to hear from you. Which of these ancient weapons would you want to have in your arsenal? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to stay tuned for more videos like this. See you next time.